It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with the irreverent co-host broadcasting from left field, my friend John Riley. We welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. There are 9 locations in San Diego and the new one that is opening up in Orange County. If you've got projects planned for the fall into the new year, think about the materials you need, think about the ideas you want to put together, then think Dixieline Lumber. John Riley, good afternoon. Is it Tuesday yet? Is it Tuesday 7 p.m. yet? Is it Tuesday Padres-Dodgers Showdown series time yet? How you doing?
Good. This is a great week. It's a sprint to the finish. Plus, we have college football, NFL. How you doing, Lee?
Oh, cannot wait. I guess we should have projected that. We're going to go a lot of different directions in the next hour. We do a lot of different things on this podcast in addition to just putting topics on the table and commenting. We started something when we launched the podcast. The people have just dove into this project. It's called Fans Forum. When we're done talking about hot topics, you take over the podcast. So if you're new to our live stream, John Riley explained to our followers on live stream how they join this talk show when we are done.
Yes, so if you want to get involved, I already see Petey and Raul jumping on. So if you have a question or comment in the world of sports for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, now's your chance to get involved. So just type in your comment or question in the live chat on Facebook, X, or on YouTube.
A couple of other items. I have a website. I write on this website every day. When we're done with this podcast this afternoon, I want you to go to my website and just sample it. It's all written. Phenomenal amount of information. That's the address right there, leehacksawhamilton.com. When you go to the website, right on the homepage, there's a bonus for you. There's an orange box. It's called Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Sign up so you can get on our email list for all the different things that we send out. We want you to share. We want you to subscribe. When you subscribe, that means you get alerts all hours of the day when we put stuff up on the YouTube channel, aside from the podcast. So there's lots of ways for you to get access to all the stuff that we are presenting. But check the website when we're done. I think you'll really like it. If you read it every morning, you'll know every story there is in the world of sports. One other item. I know you're all on social media. You need to be part of my Twitter All-Star team on X. I want you to use my handle. When you go on Twitter, go on X, type in @Hacksaw1090, hit the follow button. That way you'll be able to get all the data that I place on Twitter, aka X. Like I say, X marks the spot. Showdown, Dodgers, Padres, first place at stake. It starts Tuesday night at 7:10 p.m. at Dodger Stadium. Used to be the Dodgers would dominate this rivalry, not this year at least. Padres have beaten these guys 7 of the last 10 meetings. And at stake is first place. First place in the National League West. And at stake is probably the first wild card slot, which is really huge. First place is big because you get almost a week's bye to get your pitching staff rested. First place wild card is equally as important. Home field advantage, at least in the first round, before you have to go on the road for the rest of the playoffs. All right, let's just talk. We'll argue back and forth. Some people will call it a discussion. He and I will argue back and forth, and then you can join us in Fans Forum with your opinion. The host says, let's compare. Batting orders. Who has the better batting order? The Dodgers with all the power atop, or the Padres full batting order and bench bunch that can win games for you? I think it's a wash. Padres, they'll find ways to beat you with all their contributors. The Dodgers will beat you with the big bats at the top of the batting order. That's why they're at 92 wins this season. But the way Padres were doing business, they got 90 wins this season. So, John, which is the better batting order?
Well, if everybody on the Padres could go 6 for 6 with 3 home runs and 10 RBIs in one day, then it wouldn't be any question that the Padres would be better. Now, the Dodgers, yeah, they're top heavy. You know, I mean, it's those first 3 or 4 guys are all great. But, you know, the bottom of that order, they've been improving a little bit, haven't they, Lee? I mean, what are you seeing from like guys like Chris Martin?
Well, Gavin Lux is the one that's made the biggest jump.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's a lot of consistency on the bottom half of that batting order. Even though they got Mac Muncy back, he's not hitting like he did before. I just look at the Padres' 9 bats and 3 deep off the bench, and they've all won games for them. I don't see all those other guys at the bottom half of the Dodger batting order winning games for LA. It's all coming from Showtime and Mookie and Freddie Freeman and maybe occasionally from Will Smith. I think it's a wash. I think they can both win games. They just do it very, very differently.
It is interesting how the Padres will have Donovan Solano batting 8th, and you're like, holy crap, that's
hitting
like a
290.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a really deep lineup. I mean, so the Dodgers are going to have that inconsistent flow, but man, yeah, a wash. Yeah, I think it's the top of the order for the Dodgers better than the top of the order for the Padres, and then vice versa on the bottom.
Let's talk about starting rotation. Jack Flaherty. That's all. That's all they have. As we sit here on a Monday, they got Jack Flaherty. Yash Yamamoto got knocked around in a second start coming off the disabled list. Walker Buehler is 1-6. You never know what you're going to get. There is no Clayton Kershaw at this moment. There is no Tony Gonsolin not ready to be activated. Where is the Dodger starting pitching going to come from in this series, much less the postseason? The Padres, you got Cease, you got Java Joe, you got Michael King. Starting rotation, better in San Diego than it is in Los Angeles. Bullpen, I'm not sure who you can trust on a night-by-night basis in LA. Padre bullpen, 3 closers, 7 deep. I give the advantage to the Padres in the bullpen too. Starters, closers. 1 starter, erratic closers. And John Riley says,
I saw a projection of the starting line or the starting pitchers for this series. And one of these games, the Dodgers are doing a bullpen game. I mean, they don't even have like enough arms to throw. I mean, if the Dodgers are going to win this thing, they're going to win it like they did on Sunday against the Rockies and hit 2 bombs in the bottom of the 9th and win a slugfest. Because I don't understand how that pitching can hold it together. I saw Trinan was pitching again, but he's still not quite the same. It's weird.
So the Friars have the advantages on the mound. In the dugout, Dave Roberts, can't argue, 8 division titles, biggest bankrolled franchise in modern-day baseball in the National League. Mike Shildt, 90 wins in San Diego after all the 90-win seasons in St. Louis. Mike Shildt has brought law and order to the clubhouse. Leader, pushes the right buttons, does not make a hell of a lot of mistakes, and has gotten his guys collectively to buy into the sales pitch. Great respect to Dave Roberts. But Dave can't control the health and the non-health of the pitching staff. Shildt has got all the pistons firing on the Friar side of the first base line. I give the advantage in the manager's seat to Mike Shildt and the Padres.
Dodger fans are still angry about Dave Roberts. It's crazy. But, you know, Mike Shildt is sort of like low-key genius, you know? I mean, he's kind of has like an unassuming personality, but when you start listening to him, you can understand that dude's multi-layered deep in his intelligentsia around baseball. So the Padres have to be excited about all this, but you're getting pretty fired up here. Are you counting your chickens before they hatch?
No, I'm just excited looking. Is it Tuesday night yet?
Yeah, I know.
I just think this is fascinating to see how this thing has evolved. One closing quote about all this sales pitch. Dave Roberts said yesterday, all the teams have played this year on their schedule, even though they are in first place. Dave Roberts' comment, the Padres are the best team we have faced all season. That came from the Dodger manager. Argument over. Padres should win this thing.
Yeah, but that's also a subtle message to his guys to say, you better be ready Tuesday night at 7:00, because we might not only be facing him now, but maybe again in the playoffs.
Okay, you're a Padre fan, you're a Dodger fan. You want to throw beanballs at each other, that's okay. Fans Forum chat box is open. I'm not going to finish this podcast without taking Dodger and Padre calls as we embark on the 3 big games of the season. They're going to decide so many different things. Okay, we go from Friars versus the Blue versus the next topic on the table. This is kind of interesting the way you put this up here, John.
Yeah, Friars and the Blue, and now who plays who?
Yeah, let's just talk about what's going on the final week of the season. And I'll give you a brief comment. You just tell me who you think has the tougher run. Dodgers, battered, get the Padres, then have to go to Colorado. Hell, I don't know who's going to pitch at the Mile High for the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers' schedule's hard just because of the wreckage to their pitching staff. Padres, oh, this is a bitch. 6 on the road, 3 at Dodger Stadium, 3 at Arizona. Arizona thinks it's playing pretty good ball. They got a number of their injured players back. I think that's a challenge. Arizona fighting, clawing their way into the wild card race. They get the Giants, then they get the Padres. Arizona gets all 6 of those at home. I can't believe the Mets are still in this thing. What the Mets just did on this weekend, winning 3 of 4 against Philadelphia, that was really impressive. But now they go to Atlanta, and then they got to go face Milwaukee, which won its division. As well as the Mets are playing right now, I don't know if the Mets survive this week. And then you got Atlanta, which is really on the outside looking in. They got the Mets, and then they got a Kansas City team that's kind of run out of opportunities and kind of forced their way out of the wild card playoff race. So, John, which of those series do you think is the easiest? Which of those series do you think is the toughest?
You know, it's amazing how deep the National League is.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at these teams like the Diamondbacks, they could win it all. You know, I mean, the Mets are rolling. They're hot. Padres too. I mean, so usually you go into the playoffs and there's like a first tier and a second tier. I don't think that's the case. But looking at that, I mean, the Mets have got to have the toughest stretch of those 5.
But they beat Philadelphia 3 out of 4. How's that possible?
I mean, it's amazing how hot the Mets are and the Diamondbacks. It's why the Padres can never, even though they're red hot, they can't really get enough distance.
Yeah. The Padres have won 11 of their last 16. The Mets are 18-5, and they've come from so far back. Arizona has won 8 of its last 13. Atlanta, with all the wreckage of their injuries, they're just 11-10 over the last couple of weeks. And the Dodgers, despite having virtually no starting rotation left, are still 15-9. The Mets are the ones that are playing unbelievable ball in the teeth of the schedule. So this is really going to be fun. Like I said, is it Tuesday night yet? All right, you're a baseball fan. I don't care who you root for. How electric is what's going to happen Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday out here on the West Coast. Feel free to join us in Fans Forum. That's all things baseball. From that, next topic on the table.
We're going to talk about this Charger matchup in Pittsburgh, and it got ugly.
The Bolts got bombed. This was really bad. You know, Jim Harbaugh made the comment, we'll find out who we really are, before they went to Pittsburgh. They found out. They got belted. They lose the game. They got mugged. On top of that, they lose the quarterback, Justin Herbert, goes down again, re-injures the high ankle sprain. They lost their left tackle with a pectoral injury. They lost their right tackle, Joe Alt, with a possible tweak strain of the knee. Could not run the football at all. Could not protect the quarterback at all. Could not stop Pittsburgh's run, which was negligible at all. Do you know in the second half of that game, the Chargers were outgained 243 yards to -15. The Chargers had -15 in offense in the second half in Pittsburgh.
That's unbelievable.
Now, a bunch of that was the 5 quarterback sacks that they allowed as Herbert took a beating, and then Taylor Heineke came in and he couldn't move the football because there was nobody blocking for him. On top of that, the Chargers took 3 major personal foul penalties. They had 3 different penalties in one series that led to a 55-yard touchdown pass. They made Justin Fields, the journeyman quarterback who's fighting for his NFL life, look like a superstar throwing the football. And they just did not cover tight ends. They did not cover the wide receiver deep down the seam. We'll find out who we really are. You're really in trouble. And no amount of Jim Harbaugh's tent revival speech can remedy the fact his quarterback is hurt and both of his tackles are dinged up. And by the way, here comes Kansas City this weekend. That's tough. So all the enthusiasm has to be tempered down right now. To quote my co-host, whose favorite off-air comment is a can of whoop ass.
That's what it was.
That's what happened
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh. Boy, the Steelers just stomped them. And you look at, John, you look at the Steeler roster and you say, how the hell can they be 3-0? They have a backup quarterback. They don't throw deep hardly at all. They got a mixed bag running backs. There's nobody that terrorizes you. Najee Smith doesn't do that. How the hell could they be 3-0? Well, they're living off their defense and TJ Watt and making a lot of things happen. So Jim Harbaugh, we'll find out who we really are. You really got some problems that you can't solve with another tent revival speech in front of the media. It's only one loss, but the problem is this is a loss that has spillover for the next couple of weeks because Justin Herbert is re-injured that high ankle sprain, and maybe he came back too soon. Now he's tweaked. Now he's hurt again. And if you don't have your left tackle or maybe even your right tackle, you got some real problems. John, the floor is yours.
This is payback for Dennis Gibson in 1994. No, this was interesting at first. I mean, when you saw Justin Herbert get out there, he looked pretty good. And let's talk about some of the positives. Quentin Johnston is looking very good as a receiver.
Yes. Now Lad McConkey catches everything.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be excited about, but no one's going to be able to get the ball to those guys because, you can't count on Easton Stick. Maybe you count on Heineke if the offensive line was doing well. But yeah, this is setting up for a disaster. So now you want to hear what Harbaugh's going to say about this to kind of keep this thing going. But in a way, as a former San Diego Chargers season ticket holder, this was charging again. It's like bad luck happens to these guys all the time.
And by the way, here comes Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And they're really dinged up, but they continue to win. They find ways to win because of that quarterback. That's going to be a fascinating game this weekend, the Bolts against the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, Charger fan or transplanted, deported Steeler fan, get on Fans Forum. Express an opinion of what you saw on the weekend. And now we go to the rest of the games that we saw on the weekend, and we walk around with our mouth hanging open.
Sunday shockers.
How'd that happen?
Yeah, look at this list.
Let's start. Kansas City overwhelms Atlanta. Patrick Mahomes. The thing I love watching about the Chiefs is the wild formations that Andy Reid brings to the line of scrimmage. All these guys in different motions, half motions, different sets. And then Mahomes makes plays off the different looks while the defense is walking around trying to figure out who we're going to cover, etc. Mahomes just absolutely brilliant. Kansas City, even though they're really beat up. And by the way, they beat up Kirk Cousins. He got rocked all over that place on Sunday night. Kansas City finds a way because of the coach and because of the quarterback. Next one, Detroit Lions. They were just not going to get bullied nor shocked by Kyler Murray. Lions go into Arizona and just wear out the Arizona Cardinals. Jared Goff throws for almost 200. David Montgomery has his first 100-yard game running, and they chased Kyler Murray kind of all over the field. Lions make a statement, get up off the floor, and win. LA Rams. Matthew Stafford willed the Rams to win. That was pretty doggone impressive how they got better, tougher, more faster as the game wore on. And it's kind of stunning because Brock Purdy had a pretty good game throwing the football. But they were playing with a bunch of guys who were hurt, who were out of the lineup, and they got taken out. The Rams came from 13 back to win that game against the 49ers. No wonder why you were in a pissy mood last night.
When that field goal went through, I wasn't happy.
And they wasted an unbelievable performance by Jerron Jennings. 11 catches, 175 yards. Oh, by the way, your best bud, the one that's making all the money, Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, yeah.
We're now 3 games into the season, has not done crap to earn his money.
Show me the money.
Yeah, so San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan really upset at his team and the outcome, losing to the Rams. Philadelphia, New Orleans. Jalen Hurts put on quite a show, knocked the Saints from the ranks of the unbeaten. Hurts goes for 311. Saquon Barkley bust for 147. They punched the Saints in the mouth. Speaking of getting decked, Dallas got beat at home again. Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 182. Derrick Henry, whom the Cowboys never contacted while looking for a running back, Derrick Henry tramples them for 152.
Whoa.
Baltimore had 456 yards in Jerry's house in Dallas. Dak threw for 379, 3 touchdowns, no help at all. They have no running game at all, and they can't stop the run because of the injuries in the defensive front. Dallas is in trouble. And then there's the surprise games along the way. Denver, Tampa. Denver, which had not done anything in the first couple of games with the kid Bo Nix. He winds up with 263 all-purpose yards, doesn't make any mistakes. The Denver Broncos win in Tampa.
Wow.
And by the way, you can find Baker Mayfield, the Buccaneers quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the one on the bottom of the pile. He got sacked 7 times yesterday. Denver just lit them up. That was a real surprise. New York Giants. They beat Cleveland. They beat Deshaun Watson. They had 7 quarterback sacks. The Giants, which I don't think they got a great roster. The Giants somehow won in Cleveland. And then there's the Raider Nation. How do you lose? How do you lose to Carolina? How do you lose to a Carolina team with a street free agent quarterback, Andy Dalton, at the end of his career, who throws for 319? How do you lose to a team that you allow that had no offense, had scored 13 points in its last 4 games? How do you allow that team to go for 437? And by the way, they benched Minshew. They went to Aiden O'Connell. Raider Nation, another losing season. And your coach threw the players under the bus after the game. I don't know if you read the quote. He said there were a bunch of guys that made business decisions, a.k.a. checked out on this game. We're going to make some business decisions about those players this week.
Good.
He's throwing his players under the bus. Raider Nation, how the hell do you lose to Carolina? Anybody got Ryan Tannehill's phone number? Better yet, suck it up, suffer, and think about Shedeur Sanders' high first-round draft pick going from Colorado to the Raider Nation. So those are my opinions about what we saw this weekend. This guy had a lousy weekend. Some of his favorite teams got boxed. Go ahead, John. Just don't curse. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the Niners lost at the end. And then I was hoping the Dodgers were going to lose, and they ended up winning at the end. So the LA teams were killing me over the weekend. But there was one guy you mentioned. It was in the Kansas City Atlanta game, Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. Kirk Cousins is like the Phillip Rivers of the modern day. He's the best quarterback that seems to never win anything, don't you think?
Well, Rivers had a pretty good one-loss record. Rivers won a bunch of really critical games for the Chargers in venues in which they didn't have a historical past of winning in Kansas City, winning in Foxborough, winning in Denver. Kirk Cousins puts up nice yards, but didn't win bleep in his career. Now, that being said, he lost both of his tackles last night, and he got battered. He kept getting knocked down, but he kept getting up, and he did compete. And then, finally, the clock ran out on them because Kansas City kept making plays at the end of the game. But notice you're avoiding talking about the Raider Nation.
Well, that one shocked me. I mean, it really did. I mean, it kind of makes you wonder that the Panthers are a lot better than we thought they were. Now
the Raiders are a hell of a lot worse than we thought they were.
Exactly. So the Raiders it's been so long since they've been relevant, and you were kind of having a little bit of hope now. But you got to give it up, to the red-haired quarterback there for the Carolina Panthers, and that guy is still alive and kicking. He's doing good.
Andy Dalton throws for 319. Andy Dalton had not started a game in a couple years. Comes off the bench and does that. The color of the day, black. Raider Nation, silver and black.
And then, and that's all that the Dallas Cowboy fans are looking at as purple and black as they got punched in the nose in Dallas.
Okay, big weekend around the National Football League. Hey, you got opinions? We just told you ours. We're waiting for you to jump into the fans forum as we get to halftime. Halftime, this podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you across San Diego and the new one that opens in Orange County. John's done a lot of business with them. I did business. I was really pleased. John, what is their specialty? What would you recommend to anybody who's with us on live stream if they got projects in the house?
Yeah, I think if you're, they cater a lot to people that are building custom homes, but a lot of times you just want to remodel the kitchen. You want to remodel a bedroom. They got all the lumber, all the building materials, the doors, the windows, everything you need. And they're experts. They've been in San Diego for over 100 years. They're partners, and contractors love them. Homeowners love them. Dixieline Lumber. Yeah.
These are the people that you should do business with. We did. We're pleased. We think you will too. Dixieline Lumber.
Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, ooh, I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shit tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last.
We're at halftime here. This is our Monday bonus podcast. Couple of program notes. We do something really different on this podcast. It's called Fans Forum. When we're done talking sports, we invite you to join us. You jump into the chat box, give us a question, make a statement. We'll put it on the air for everybody to hear what you've got to say, and then we'll talk you down off the ledge. Fans Forum comes up right at the end. Want to remind you that I have this website. I write on it every day. I guarantee you, if you read the website as soon as this podcast is over, you'll be floored with the amount of information I provide you every day of the week. It's there first thing every morning for you to read. Also on my website, there's an orange box right on the homepage. It's called Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Get onto the email list because we send you a lot of volume of information there. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do. Podcast Mondays at 1, podcast Thursdays at 1. Want you to subscribe. The minute you subscribe, you'll then get the alerts every time John and I put different things up on our YouTube channel. And, of course, Fans Forum, when we're done, this is something brand new. He created it. It's just been a bonanza of way to interact with all the people. I come from a sports talk radio background. I would say, get off your ass and get on the phone. John has yet to come up with something clever to invite you to join us on Fans Forum.
Yeah, I mean, thank all you that are jumping on board. Thank you. And by the way, some of our fans are making voluntary donations. David just gave us $50.50. So, David, thank you very much. And we also got $1.49 from Carlos. So, thank you. But if you got a question or comment, it doesn't cost you anything. Just drop in a live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube. Will get you involved. Who do we see here? Jason and Petey and Roy and Hugh and Roberto. So, we'll get you all involved in Fans Forum at the end of Hacksaw's Headlines.
That coming up as soon as we are done here. We go from that into the second half. Let's talk college football. And I guess the only words I can use to describe what we saw Saturday, Los Angeles. USC, UCLA, lost.
Yeah, they lost. It was competitive in the beginning, but then it got away.
USC hung tough. But how the hell do you allow Michigan to run for 279 yards on your defense? How do you beat a one-dimension Michigan team that they could not throw the football, and yet you lost? Really bad set of circumstances. Of course, they were competing against 106,000 people wearing maize and blue. But it was really disturbing because SC's quarterback, Miller Moss, hung in there. I think he threw for 279, threw 3 touchdown passes. Well, he took some wicked hits along the way. But just Michigan got tougher and tougher as the game went on. And then the Trojan defense just could not get off the field. They knew the run was coming, and they still could not stop them, even though Michigan's backup quarterback could not throw the football. So this was a real stunner to me. UCLA got whacked. Early on, they competed down in Baton Rouge, but it turned out to be a disaster in Death Valley. UCLA's they've got all kinds of issues. Could not protect the quarterback. Ethan Garbers got banged all over the place. Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, threw for 320-something and 3 touchdowns along the way. It's evident to me that Deshaun Foster, Eric Bieniemy just don't have enough players, and that's on them. They're the ones that were there, hired as the recruiting process began. They are just player threadbare in terms of a lot of talent. Don't run the ball very well. The big wide receivers they have, they don't get the ball to them. Garbers got knocked all over the place as LSU got progressively stronger and stronger. So, like I say, Los Angeles, a lost weekend. Your thoughts on SC and UCLA?
Well, I was curious to see how these were going to go because these were the big time going to the Midwest and playing these teams. UCLA early on, Garbers had that 1 touchdown pass. He took a shot right in the sternum, and he delivered a shot. And I'm thinking, hey, UCLA showing me something here we hadn't seen in the previous games.
One possession. It was one possession.
But still, it was something to hang your hat on because the previous games were such a disaster. The game, I thought this was going to be even more lopsided than it turned out when you look at the final score. But, these are building blocks for these teams. SC, I forgot that they were rated number 11 going into that game. And they were competitive, but they just couldn't stop Michigan. And man, imagine being a football player, like just out of high school, playing in front of 100,000 or is it 110,000 in Michigan. What an arena. What a place to play.
That very, very, very tough place to play. But USC's got all this 5-star talent. I was amazed that they could lose to a one-dimension Michigan team because the whole world knew there's only one thing Michigan could do because their quarterbacks have not thrown the ball well at all, and that was run it. And why didn't you load the box? Why didn't you blitz the run lanes? SC defensively just let them maul them over the course of the game. Like I said, Trojans gave up 279 on the ground.
It's funny. The Trojans got beat by a quarterback named Orgy.
Yeah. Your warped sense of humor. Anyhow, tough weekend in Los Angeles. If you're a USC or UCLA fan, feel free to jump on board. And this is only the beginning because these guys got to go back east a bunch more times. And of course, not going to be easy, I don't think. Okay, we go from that to what an electric game this was in Boulder.
Yeah. SHEDEUR-Sanders, man, Coach Prime, this has got a lot of hope.
And the picture right at the end of the game, the fans storming the field, filled the whole football field with Colorado fans wearing white. Nice phrase. What it should be, we don't have enough room to put it up there. Dion and Shedeur were probably saying, "Hail Mary, full of grace. I hope this pass comes down in the right place." And SHEDEUR-Sanders throws a 33-yard Hail Mary desperation heave to a wide receiver falling down who caught the ball on the final play of the game to force overtime. Just amazing. And then they get to overtime. CU wins the toss, goes in and scores. Back comes the opposition, goes right down the field, looks as if they're going to run it in, and the ball is punched out as the quarterback tries to go over the top of the goal line. Travis Hunter punches the ball out, loose in the end zone. Colorado falls on it. Colorado overtime. Bedlam explodes. I mean, SHEDEUR-Sanders is he's hardy, he's gritty, he's tough. He was getting whacked on virtually every pass play there was. And CU wins a really tough game against the Baylor Bears. Shocker to me overnight, Associated Press poll just came out. Colorado did not get one vote in the top 25. How is that possible, considering how well that kid quarterback and that wide receiver cornerback, the next Dion, Travis Hunter, are playing? That was a hell of a game, and I wish I had a picture of those fans storming that field. The whole football field was all white. All the fans wearing white Colorado Buff shirts. It was really cool look.
That was a legit win, man. And Shedeur, you saw his mobile moving around, like swinging way outside the pocket, making throws. And the catch at the end, what was the kid's name? Westers, I think. Yeah. He kind of like deked his guy at the final, like right near the pylon, and then was able to kind of cut in and catch the pass right before it landed. And what a finish. So I'm thrilled. I think this is great. Big 12, Colorado's competitive. Let's see who they've got next.
On we go. Okay, that's college football. You got an opinion. Fans Forum box is open. Jump on board. Couple of other items. We're going to talk about basketball because this is probably something we ought to pay attention to. They got unbelievable notoriety. We're talking about the start of the WNBA season. Caitlin Clark not being accepted by all those other stars in the league, victimized, cheap shotted, etc. Really bad start. Caitlin Clark drags the Indiana Fever into the playoffs. A team that was 3-10 to start makes the playoffs. But I think the bigger story is the health of the WNBA. I'm going to raise this question because they just announced this weekend they're putting another expansion team. It's going to go to Portland. And now what you do is this league is just not Caitlin Clark. This league is Aja Wilson, the MVP of the league, averaging 27 points, 11 rebounds a game. She plays for the defending champion, Las Vegas Aces. This league is Angel Reese, who's become a star under herself with all her glitz and glory. Angel Reese from LSU, who's in Chicago. This league is about the collective talent that they've stockpiled on the East Coast of the Connecticut Sun. That's a really good team that plays well together. You know, this league is about Deanna Stewart, star from the New York Liberty. You know, and this league is about Kelsey Plum, who had injuries early on, but is obviously a star coming out of college basketball. The star level of the WNBA, John, is just staggering. And their TV ratings have rocketed. And their attendance went through the roof in virtually every city there is. So I've told you all the reasons why all of a sudden there's a magnetism to what this league is all about, in addition to the fashion statements they all make walking into the arena wearing all this glitter. Here's a question. As the league is expanding, why not San Diego? Would San Diego support an expansion team in the WNBA, looking at the litany of stars that have now flown into the league in the last 24 months? Why not San Diego? We are a major market, are we not? Okay, John, your turn.
That's an interesting angle, you know, because we have Alex Morgan here, you know, playing for the San Diego Wave. Why not in a WNBA team? I'm thrilled, as you are, because for women's sports, when I grew up, it was usually tennis players, you know, like Steffi Graf and Martina Navratilova. So it's nice to see the women's sports expanding. You know, but in SoCal, the Sparks have not been good at all.
Well, they were past champions. Now they've fallen into disarray.
Yeah, so I was looking at the brackets, and I think I'm going to pick, you know, the team closest to me. That'll be my rooting interest, which will be the Las Vegas Aces, because, you know, Kelsey Plum, I mean, she's like a dude sometimes. You know, she was taking, if I remember, was this March Madness where she was throwing T-shirts like up into the stands? I mean, she looked like Shedeur Sanders throwing it. Unbelievable athlete. So yeah, I'm thrilled for this league. I'm happy. And you're right. It's not just Caitlin Clark. There's a lot of people that we should be talking about.
And I'd just ask the question, shouldn't San Diego, a major market with a sports arena, be a viable entity? Now, you don't get a franchise for free. It costs a ton of money. Why not? I mean, Portland's got the NBA team. Portland had a team before. It didn't last. Why not San Diego? I mean, it's a very different aura right now. I just throw that out to you.
Well, it's a good idea because you see at the women's soccer games that a lot of young girls are going there with their families, with their teams. And imagine that, having that kind of a unique angle to market your team in San Diego. but they're going to need a new arena. So we need to get Stan Kroenke on the phone.
Okay, we go from that. Next topic on the table, John.
NHL news here. We got Canucks and we got the Golden Knights.
Yeah, NHL camps have opened, and unfortunately, there's some real bad news. A couple of spots in the National Hockey League, and most of it swirls around goaltenders. Let's just talk about the situation in Vancouver. Surprise team last year, went deep into the NHL playoffs before it finally caught up to them. They are in camp without either of their goaltenders. Thatcher Demko is from San Diego, the star goaltender making mega money. He suffered a knee injury in the first playoff game. He never came back. He's indicated it is a unique muscular injury. He says, and they have canvassed through his agent and sports medicine people, they've not found a goaltender that's had this muscular injury. They don't know how to treat it, and he's not healthy. And here we are, a couple weeks out from the start of the NHL season, and they don't have him. And they don't have the hot young goaltender who backed him up, Artur Siljovs. He suffered a knee injury, had a scope procedure. He's not ready to start the season. So suddenly Vancouver, which has undergone a bunch of changes also because of the salary cap. Rick Tocchet is not going to have the same team that finished up last year. Suddenly Vancouver's got all kinds of problems in goal, and you can't go get a star goaltender at the slate date, and they got salary cap issues. So not a good time in the Pacific Northwest. And this is a really bad story in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Golden Knights, who've been just a tremendous expansion team, went Stanley Cup Finals and all that. Their top money goaltender, Robert Lehner, did not show up to take his physical. Lehner, according to management, is, quote, unfit to play. They said that publicly. Lehner's had mental health issues. Lehner had a hip surgery. There were complications. Lehner is in bankruptcy, $27 million in debt. Lehner made one comment: we are working through the union to solve this. But Las Vegas over the weekend says this player who's making like $5.8 million a year, this player is unfit to play, not just physically, but mentally. And now obviously $27 million in debt. So NHL exhibition games are this week. We start the season in just a couple of weeks. Got some teams with trouble in goal.
Wow, those are tough stories. I mean, we had talked a little bit about, the goalkeeper in Vegas that was going through the bankruptcy, but I'm thinking about it from the perspective of a young player that's like wants to be an up and coming, wants to get to the NHL, and they would give their left nut to get into the NHL. And here's a guy that the rest of his life is sort of unraveled, and that it would make it difficult, not for just for him, but for young guys seeing that and saying, like, how could that possibly happen? Because you think if you made the NHL, your life is wonderful and everything is great, but it clearly isn't. The keeper up in Vancouver sounds like you, with a mystery illness that the doctors can't figure out.
That's your Demko. Yeah, I mean, that's a self-made guy. He's from Scripps Ranch, and he has worked really hard to get to be a star. He's making beaucoup bucks. And this flukish injury in the first playoff game that he played, and they can't solve it. It's some type of muscular thing in the back of the knee. And of course, always surgery is always a last resort for him and for me. And that's tough. And suddenly Vancouver, which was a surprise team in the Western Conference playoffs last year, they're kind of running into a wall. And here we are 2 weeks from the start of the season, and they got injuries. They just lost a player who had underwent emergency testicular cancer surgery.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, I mean, they lost some players to free agency in the offseason off defense that left. Just unfortunately for Rick Tocchet, who's a really good coach, they don't have a roster full of players now in Vancouver. So this bears watching as we go every week, Mondays and Thursdays. We'll peek inside the NHL notebook. So we got a lot to talk about. Now it's your turn. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations in San Diego. You've got projects in the home, at work, maybe on the back patio. Think materials, think Dixieline. If you need ideas, think Dixieline, because they get consultants that help you. Dixieline Lumber Home Centers. John, we're ready. Fans Forum. Oh, look at how many people are stacked up here. I guess they're ready too. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Let's go to Petey And he says, should we use Michael King as a secret bullpen weapon with recent Suarez struggles? He did it in New York.
Well, in postseason play, you probably get by with 3 efficient starters. Your 4th starter becomes a long reliever if somebody has a problem. But at this point, the Padres are also 7 deep in the bullpen, Petey. So I wouldn't mess with that chemistry. I'd just be judicious as to how often I use Suarez. He's had 3 bad outings in his last 7 appearances. So you gotta walk down the line with him. But it wouldn't surprise me to see them flip Suarez and maybe go to Tanner Scott as the closer. Scott has pitched pretty doggone dominantly since he came from Miami, and you got Jason Adams as a setup guy. I would not make King a reliever. I'd keep King in the rotation because all kinds of things can change with your starters.
Well, King deserves to be a starter in the playoffs based on how well he pitched this year. But what an embarrassment of riches. I mean, even Martin Perez, the number 5 starter, he'd be a hell of a long reliever in the playoffs.
And who did I say at midseason might be the MVP of the Padres? Ruben Niebla.
Yes.
And here is Martin Perez, journeyman Texas, journeyman Pirates, ERA. When they unpacked his bag at the airport, his ERA was 6.52. His ERA here is like 2.33 since he got here. Ruben Niebla.
Unbelievable. I mean, that's just like magic he's working there. But as far as Suarez goes, we're really worried. He looked good there yesterday, but we'll see how it goes. But hopefully they can just kind of spread the love around. It doesn't always have to be Suarez closing. They can mix it in, and I think that'll take a little pressure off.
Yeah, and right now, here's an interesting stat. Since Yu Darvish and Musgrove came off the DL, they were out for those extended periods.
Mm-hmm.
Since those 2 guys came off and rejoined the other starters, the Dylan Ceases, the Michael Kings, the collective ERA of those 4 guys in the last 18 games since they came off the DL, the collective 2.29.
Holy crap.
Nobody's got a 2.29 ERA, but they do in San Diego. How amazing is that?
I don't think any pitching staff has a 3.29.
Yeah.
Much less a 2.29. And then Perez, he's been terrific too. So, wow. I mean, we went from wondering if we were going to have enough pitching to get through this season, and now it feels like we have too many guys. We're like the opposite problem of the Dodgers.
Is it Tuesday night yet? Hey, PD, enjoy the game. Be with us on Thursday. We'll talk more about it. Next topic.
Okay, let's go here to Raul. He says, Lee, 3 games to glory in the NL West. What's your prediction?
Jack Flaherty can't start every game. Is there any Dodger fan out there that would like to join us on those podcasts? We'll give you your space to express your opinion. Who are they going to give the ball to after Flaherty makes his first appearance against the Padres? There is no other starter. As John said, they're talking about a bullpen day in the most important week of the season. A bullpen day with all the relievers that are on that staff. And by the way, half those relievers are up and down, in and out, upside down. Could the Padres win all 3? Well, they got to keep Ohtani and Showtime in the ballpark, but I guess anything's possible because I don't think the Dodgers have pitching.
Okay, so let's just pretend for a minute. Let's assume this is a bold assumption that the Padres go up to LA and sweep the Dodgers, which I don't think is really going to happen.
So that means by Friday morning, there'll be a first-place tie in the National League West.
Yeah, because it'll go the opposite of what I predict. But if they sweep, it would be a tie at the top.
But Dodger Blue goes to Colorado.
That's the point. And then the
Friars
Padres got to go to Arizona, and that's a tougher assignment. So I think even if the Padres sweep up in LA, I don't know that they're going to be victorious at the finish line come the end of the season.
Okay. Somebody else jump in here. Give us a different opinion. If you think we're off base, you can pick him off or pick me off. Doesn't matter. Next question.
Okay, let's go to Dave Dog. Raiders. What a big disappointment.
Carolina, you got to be kidding me. The only thing I can say is Antonio Pierce is so emotional. He's just so volatile. He threw his players under the bus after the game. You can't do that. You got to fix it. You got to rally him. But Dave Dog, you got 14 more weeks of this at quarterback. 14 weeks of Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. Yikes. And you can't run the ball worth a bleep. Antonio Pierce last week, his favorite phrase was, this offensive line in this running game is piss poor. It's not a way to rally your team together. The only thing I can say to ease your pain, Dave Dog, Shedeur Sanders, first-round draft pick next year. How would that look?
That would look good. That would be really good. But, this is making me think a little bit. Did you follow the crisis with C.J. Abrams and the Nationals? And he was out late at night.
Till 8 a.m. in the morning on a day game.
Yeah, and that's usually something a Raider player would do. But the Nationals demoted him to AAA. Too bad the Raiders don't have a AAA team, because if you said those guys made business decisions, they checked out. Yeah, those guys need to be demoted and in some cases removed.
Some of those guys look like they have removed themselves already. Okay, Dave Dog, I hope there's a better day. We'll talk about it regardless of what kind of day your Raiders are having. Next one.
Okay, let's go to Callan. He goes, there's a developing story that Gonzaga is going to leave the WCC for the Pac-12. Explain to me how moving the men's basketball team only to the Pac-12 benefits either party involved. Makes no sense.
That's a great question, but that's Gonzaga. That's big-time national reputation. You staple Gonzaga's logo to the Pac-12 resume, and the networks look at that and say, wow. Now suddenly you've got an improved product to put on your TV network, and that's what this is all about. It's not as if the Pac-12 loves San Diego State or Fresno State or whomever. What it is a brand linked with the Pac-12 brand. When they go to the negotiating table for the next TV contract, you got a wow factor there. And from Gonzaga's standpoint, yes, have dominated, have done such a great job in the West Coast Conference, but that's the WCC. You put them in the Pac-12 with a legendary national brand that is San Diego State, and some of these other schools, they're going to make the Pac-12 brand much more recognizable nationwide, which means bigger paydays. And Gonzaga will get a bigger network cut if they remember the Pac-12 rather than the West Coast Conference.
Oh, yeah.
That's slimming it down to the actual reasons why it would make sense.
Well, I think now in the 21st century, we have to think differently, because we normally think just geographically, that they all need to be on the Pacific time zone or whatever to be in the Pac-12. But we need to think in terms of these basketball only schools, kind of like the Big East schools. I don't think a lot of those guys have basketball or football programs, do they? Like St. John's or Creighton. So it's just about loading up all those brands. So the bottom line is eyeballs. And I think, when you think about how college sports are, if you're on the East Coast, you can watch college sports for 18 hours straight, into the middle of the night as long as you have competitive Pacific time zone games. So that makes sense to me, Gonzaga being there. I don't think we need to think of it as they don't fit. I think it's a matter of, like you say, bringing the big names in.
Yeah, taking their logo and putting it next to the Pac-12.
Exactly.
I still don't understand. I mean, the sources that I network with tell me from in the next 48 to 72 hours, the Pac-12 is going to add 2 more. And I just keep hearing through the grapevine, it's going to be Memphis and it's going to be Tulane or Memphis and South Florida. I don't like that at all, even though Memphis has a, quote, nationally recognized program in basketball with Penny Hardaway, but that might be on NCAA probation soon. I like the Gonzaga idea. I floated that. He floated that. I brought it up today to Brian Dutcher at the Aztec press conference. They had their basketball preseason gathering today. And he says it'd be phenomenal for the brand. So he kind of thinks like I think, that this would be great when you go to the negotiating table. You got the Aztecs with a national presence, and you got Gonzaga with a national presence. And we'll see who else out of this other group develops. But that's where we are as of this hour. Callum, that's a very good question. Thank you.
Okay, let's go here to Jason. Wants to talk Chargers. Joey Bosa, again, every year, sigh.
He lasted 2 plays, and he got hurt. It's a hip and a groin. So he's out again. And it's weird because he's such a great explosive athlete, and yet he keeps getting hurt. Guys roll up on him. Calf injury, knee injury, hip injury, groin injury. He's just got this black cloud hanging all over him. When he's on the field and healthy, paired with Khalil Mack, Jay, he's pretty good. He just can't stay on the field right now. I hate to use this phrase. I used it once, and it was terrible. The Chargers had a number 1 draft pick, a running back. You remember the name, Ryan Matthews, Fresno State.
Yeah.
Very good college player.
Mm-hmm.
Got here, could not stay on the field. He was always hurt. Eventually, I don't know that he lasted 4 years in the league. He was out of here within 2.5. I called him China Doll. They got so upset at me over at the Fortress. But here you're paying big money, high #1 draft pick, had a great college career at Fresno, and he can't stay on the field. Joey Bosa can't stay on the field right now. It's just terrible.
Yeah, it's weird because, his brother Nick, does he have a lot of injury problems too?
He's had some, but Nick played all day yesterday, even though he's hurt. He's got a rib injury and that he played.
Wow. Yeah, it's still the Joey Bosa line. He's the Anthony Rendon of the NFL. I think it's fantastic. And we'll credit one of our listeners or viewers for that. But it is crazy. I mean, that what year was he drafted? That was when the Chargers were in San Diego, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bosa. I think he's a 6th or 7th year veteran now.
Right. So he's been around. But it makes you think of who else was in that draft and maybe the Chargers should have picked.
We got the wrong Bosa.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, Jason, thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's go here to Carlos. And Carlos is kind enough to give us a $1.49 super sticker. Thank you, Carlos. And his question is, go Padres. The Padres should roll the Dodgers. The hitters, they have need to step up and help the pitching.
Well, the key situation from San Diego, and John and I talked about this off the air. You look down that batting order, anybody in that batting order can win you a game. It just does not have to be El Nino Tatis nor La Salsa Machado. It can be Profar. It could be the kid, Jackson Merrill. It could be Crony. It could be the catcher, Higgy. I mean, it's amazing how many games have won with different contributions. The Dodgers' top 4 are spectacular. Showtime and Mookie and Freddie and Will Smith. The rest of the Dodger batting order, substandard offensively, occasional pop a home run, etc. And then I just think the Padres right now, the Padres are the most complete team, maybe the most healthy team of the ones fighting for these key spots in the National League West. And the Dodgers, despite the stars at the top of your batting order and your box score in the morning paper, the Dodgers right now have the worst pitching situation I have ever seen in modern day baseball. Please tell me who you're going to give the starting ball to, aside from Jack Flaherty, after he pitches the first game. I can't think of anybody. Now, because you got the Yamamoto setback, and there is no Kershaw, and Buehler is 1-6, and Bobby Miller and his 8.52 ERA is already back in AAA, and there's not going to be a reappearance of Gavin Stone. He's gone for the rest of the year with a shoulder inflammation. Who are you going to have pitch? On paper, it's looking good for the Padres, but as a Padre fan, I don't want to get ahead of myself because we've never won anything, and Dodger fan will be the first one to remind you that we're their little brother. We're their little sister. We're minor league, and the San Diego is nothing compared to LA, and it's hard when they've got the rings and we don't. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but you're right. They've gotten contributions up and down that lineup, and that's usually a recipe for success. AJ Preller, Executive of the Year, best roster building job he's ever done. Mike Schilt, another 90-win season with a bunch of setbacks along the way with those pitchers. 90 wins, playing for first place, starting. Is it Tuesday night yet? Hey, Carlos, thank you for joining us. Okay, let's go to Chris. Hacksaw. So it turns out Sam Darnold can play a little bit. Goes to show bad organizations could put a stranglehold on a player's development. Reaction. And glad to know you'll be safe crossing streets tonight with that wardrobe choice. Thank you very much. I'm colorblind. Don't beat me up. It's been amazing. Minnesota 3-0. You are kidding me, right? Minnesota 3-0. Let their running backs go. Let their top pass rusher go. Do have Justin Jefferson. Minnesota 3-0 with Sam Darnold. Speaks volumes of Kevin O'Connell teaching X's and O's and his system as head coach. I'm just awed. Minnesota 3-0. You got to be kidding me. Minnesota, Pittsburgh in a Super Bowl with those two Neanderthal offenses. Well, they met in the 70s, didn't they? Yeah, way back in the day. Fran Tarkenton, Chuck Foreman. Yeah, but that was a long time ago. That was a few third down and longs ago. Kevin O'Connell obviously has had great impact on Sam Darnold. And you are correct. Chris, you make a really valid point of bad organizations can screw up young quarterbacks or put them in situations in which those young quarterbacks can't do really well. Over in Carolina right now with the whole Bryce Young situation. So it happens a bunch of places. So we'll see. They're 3-0. You can't take the 3 wins away. Do they have enough players to go 14 more weeks without having this thing cave in on them. Only time's going to tell.
Was it the CBS pregame show? I think it might have been who's the former Steelers coach?
Cowher.
Cowher. I was thinking the jaw. And I think he said that Kevin McConnell was the quarterback whisperer. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, that's a clever line. But, Sam Darnold, he was like number 1 overall at a USC like about 5-6 years ago. And he just went to the New York Jets.
Yeah. And look how that worked out.
Yeah. Now the time is right.
So far, so good. Chris, thanks for the input. Next one, Fans Forum.
Okay, let's move on here down to John. He says the Dodgers have history, but this Padre team seems to have the hunger this season. No city or fan base in North America deserves a championship more than San Diego. Hoping this will be the magic year for my old home.
John is based out of the District of Columbia. He's a longtime follower. So when, we did Sports Talk Radio on 690, 1090, John was with us and we found out that we were going to do this podcast. John was jumping in and emailing me. John will be up at 3:00 in the morning, DC time, following the Padre games.
Outstanding.
I don't know when he ever sleeps. He writes me emails at 2 a.m. He's as wild as the late, great Peter Seidler. Send me emails at 2:30 in the morning. It's going to be fun. Padres collectively are a really good team, and so many things have changed in that clubhouse, in that dugout, and on that roster to make them, John, where they are right now. So it's going to be great. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's just going to be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But, it's interesting that John says there's no city or fan base in North America that deserves a championship more. Sometimes Sports Illustrated and other writers will stack rank, the most, winless cities in America. And often it is San Diego and Cleveland, but I think that was before LeBron won one of those with the Cavaliers.
Yeah, but the Browns haven't done it since 1964. Cleveland had Indians, my Indians, your Guardians, haven't done it in a long, long time. So it's been quite a drought here. And I'm not talking about the weather and rainfall amounts either. So we'll see. We'll see what this thing, and, a week from now, it'll be the eve of the playoffs. We'll get through this weekend. We'll see what our emotional status is next Monday, but the playoffs start on Tuesday. And that's a whole different environment.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
You talking about playoffs? Okay, let's go on down the line here. Let's go to Roberto. He's got another interesting Padre question. Where would you place Jake Cronenworth in the lineup?
Well, are you talking about position or are you talking about spot in the batting order? One of the theories, one of the rumors when I'm down there at Petco Park, that Jake is not hitting left-handed pitching at all. He's batting like 201. And what they're talking about a little bit might be some type of platoon. Now, Hassan Kim is not ready to come back. Hassan Kim has just been sent to Arizona. He still can't throw across his shoulder and across the diamond. So he's not going to play. He's going to stay, he won't be I don't think he'll be on the postseason roster, at least to start. So that might scuttle the idea that they might go to Jake in some type of platoon situation. But Cronenworth is just like anybody else. He can win you a game. When you least expect it, he hits one into the Crone zone. So just collectively, this team collectively is better than any of them are probably individually in terms of carrying a team. Collectively, they can.
Cronenworth's an interesting guy. I mean, first of all, when he's on the field, he always looks like he's annoyed at something, and annoyed at a person or a situation or the opposing team. He's had huge moments in Padre history, and he's gone through these rough spots. I remember he made a comment once. He says, who would have ever thought that here I be on a playoff team with Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis and batting third in the lineup, which he had done for a great period of time. So, when we got him, he was sort of a throw-in in that deal. It turned out to be a pretty good deal for the Padres.
Yeah. Credit scouting. Credit boots on the ground. He was a throw-in in the Will Myers deal. And Myers was here and played okay.
No, it was a Tommy Pham deal.
From Tampa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we got Hunter Renfroe. Pardon me. We got Hunter Renfroe, went to Tampa. Oh, and then we got Tommy Pham, and then we got Cronenworth as a throw-in.
But that goes back to my theory with AJ Preller. Boots on the ground.
There you go.
And they discovered Cronenworth. They saw potential coming out of the University of Michigan. Not bad for an old hockey player, huh? That's amazing. Amazing. Crony's a great contributor. Rob, thank you.
Okay, let's go here to Javi. Dodgers only really need to win one of the three, even though I think they'll take two.
Oh, you're joining us. You're messaging us with your heart. That's okay. Sometimes I wish you'd message with your head. So you can cheerlead Dodger Blue, Jovi. Please tell me who is going to start games 2 and 3 of the series. And then, by the way, who's going to be your starters once you get to the playoffs? Because even though if the Dodgers win the division, they're going to get the first round bye. But 4 days is not going to solve all the issues with your starting pitching, because those guys, I don't think those guys can come back. And for every good first outing Yamamoto had coming off the disabled list, the second outing was terrible. For every good dominant outing Buehler had, either side of those two starts, he got lit up. So, Jovi, who you can give the ball to? Who you going to trust? You got all these series, these best of 5, best of 7 series. You don't have any starting pitching.
But they're going to end up winning these games like 11-8.
Okay.
That's the only way it's going to work. Now, imagine a scenario where the Padres are up 1 in the 9th inning against the Dodgers, and we've got Suarez, and then here comes Ohtani. Do you trust Suarez to pitch to Ohtani in the bottom of the 9th down when the Dodgers are down 1, or do you bring in Tanner Scott?
I bring in Tanner Scott right now because I don't think you can trust Suarez's stuff. And Ohtani's hitting it off everybody.
Yeah.
But Tanner Scott's got wicked stuff coming from the left side in on him.
Remember the Padres had Alec Jacob. He was sort of like the secret weapon. Was it him or was it another guy?
That was Jacob that threw whatever he threw.
Yeah, it was like this funky sidearm thing that was always getting Ohtani out.
So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we got the playoffs next week. It's going to be so much fun.
Okay, well, here's the shout out for David. $50.50. Right on, David. Thank you very much.
Hey, anybody else would like to contribute, because the host is the one that's writing all the checks, so you can have this podcast, so you can make rude and crude comments about my clothes.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But if you'd like to contribute, John can explain how all that works.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to you make a voluntary contribution, Super Chat is a feature built into YouTube. So you can leave a donation, and we're very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
It's better than us taxing you. And who knows, hell, that might happen too. Next one.
Okay. Force Ghost Fabio. Memphis has declined to move to the Pac-12 and is staying in the AAC.
Okie dokie. You just stay there where you are. I wouldn't be surprised to see Memphis wind up in the Atlantic Coast Conference, because that's got much more basketball name recognition. So that's fine with me. I don't want to see anything in the Deep South. I don't want to see anybody with no tradition, Tulane, South Florida. You kidding me? Just go get Gonzaga, and then we'll see if there's something else out there. You see if I like the Air Force Academy and the Pac-12 because of the TV network and the notoriety globally. But the AAC is going after Air Force because they already have Army and Navy, and that'd be kind of a unique addition to the military commitment there.
Sports fans are always thinking, well, eventually, like you've said, Cal and Stanford are going to wake up and say, this sucks. Why are we out here in the East Coast? But they're locked into that deal, right? For how long?
Well, I think there are exit fees. And not everybody there in the ACC is happy about these guys from here.
They got to travel the other way.
Yeah, they just might cut them loose. And then if the UCLA situation blows up in their face, do they wake up one morning and say, this is not a good idea? Now you got UCLA coming back into this conference with Cal, with Stanford, with the expansion already made, and maybe Gonzaga. Now you got a very different brand.
Wouldn't it be funny if San Diego State is at the top of the new Pac-12 and UCLA comes begging to get back in? It's always usually the opposite way. Funny how it all works.
They'd let them in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go here to 4RXLA. Quick takes. Dodgers lose first round. Roberts and Pryor fired, and Schumacher is hired. Raiders dumpster fire. AP and 29 coaches might not last the 4-13 season.
Well, that's an awful lot you put on the table there. Dave Roberts has got 1 year left on his contract. Pryor is under a multi-year contract. They are not to blame for the epicenter of all the injuries with the pitchers, but the Dodgers are going to evaluate, quote, the Dodger way, how they draft them, how they treat them, how they develop them, what they demand from them. There's just a different situation that exists in Major League Baseball. It's everywhere. I mean, I think as of today, there's 55 pitchers who have now had elbow surgery since spring training, and we're into September. Skip Schumacher's name has been mentioned already with the White Sox. So that may be a landing spot there, but that's a total rebuild mode. The Raiders situation, ugly. And all I can say is they got a good general manager who's a very credible person in Tom Telesco. They have not had some credible people as football decision makers in recent years, maybe even decades. Think Shedeur Sanders. If this turns out to be a disaster, as you say, dumpster fire, high number 1 pick, you find a way to get the quarterback from Colorado, and that kind of changes everything. And I think you'd agree with me. Shedeur looks pretty good in black.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
You know, and have the whole Coach Prime thing around the Raiders. The mystique would be on, full tilt. I just want to comment, though. Now, let's imagine a scenario that the Dodgers win the NL West and they get into the playoffs, and regardless of whatever the Padres do, that the Dodgers lose, they don't make it to the World Series, and LA fires, as 4XLA says, so it fires Dave Roberts and Mark Pryor. Would that be like the Chargers firing Marty Schottenheimer after going 14-2?
Sure, because Dave Roberts has won 8 straight Western Division titles. Been to the World Series, got 1 ring. You may say they deserve a lot more. Behind the scenes, it's just not Dave Roberts making decisions. It's the analytics guys handing down pieces of paper with what we recommend you do in this situation. And Dave Roberts following marching orders. I don't think Dave Roberts' job is in jeopardy, but I do think what is in jeopardy is the whole medical staff and what they need to evaluate what they do with pitching. Why are so many Dodger pitchers breaking down, all with the same injuries? Elbow, ligament, forearm. I went back and dug up. Dodgers have used the disabled list for pitching 98 times in 3 years. 98 times have put pitchers on the DL for a wide variety of things. But the preponderance of the young Dodger pitchers all have this. That means something's wrong in terms of teaching, or the mandates of you get 100-mile-an-hour fastball, the mandates of what you throw that has wicked movement that causes this. So the Dodgers are going to have to do a big evaluation because right now they lead the world in elbow surgeries.
I think I figured it out.
Go ahead.
The Dodgers pitching, we can blame it on the curse of the eminent domain in Chavez Ravine when they were dragging out the Latino people out of their homes to claim that land to build Dodger Stadium in the 1950s. And it's finally coming back to zap them.
You in conspiracy theories. What's your political affiliation? No, stop the conspiracy theories. It's just baseball. It's a bad situation. Baseball's got a real situation, but they can't outlaw those type of pitchers. And the LA Times did a great investigative piece, and they talked to Walker Buehler just last week. It was one of the great things I've ever seen written because they broke down all the pitching injuries. And Walker Buehler said, yes, they teach us to get max velocity, and we become max effort pitchers. We know the risks. We take the risks so we can win. We want to succeed by taking the risks so we can get our contracts. And if we break down and need surgery, Walker Buehler's statement was, so be it, I'm a Dodger pitcher. That's the mindset.
Well, let's say Greg Maddux came out of the sky and landed here in 2024. Would he be successful?
He's such a unicorn. Is that the correct phrase?
Mm-hmm.
He's so uniquely different. I just don't see a hell lot of guys who can paint the black the way Greg Maddux painted the black.
Well, like other guys like Zach Davies and there's another pitcher for the Cubs that throw a lot of off speed. They're, classic pitchers and they're crafty and clever.
But they're also the 10th guy on the roster who gets cut and doesn't get re-signed, is out in the street.
Yeah. And their fastball tops out at like 91.
Yeah.
So
Maddux was such a unique individual, but there's just not a lot of guys that paint the black that way.
I just wonder if he would even get a shot. At some point would his development stop because he's not throwing hard enough, or the coaches would make him throw hard and then he'd get injured or something would go wrong.
I just keep giving him the ball every 4th or 5th day because last I checked, he keeps getting guys out.
Yes, he does.
End of argument. No more conspiracies from you. Shut up.
Okay. All right. Hey, let's get David involved. David left us the nice gift. David said, I'm from Los Angeles, but I've been in San Diego for over 12 years. I just want a fun series. Let's go Dodgers and Padres.
We've been spoiled here. John and I, we've both been to Petco Park this year. Damn stadium is electric. 2 years ago, I'd sit in that press box and the building would shake. The noise was so loud. It was like an NFL playoff game atmosphere. And that's become Petco Park. 56 sellouts this year, John. Total attendance, all-time record, 3.31 million this season at home. That's phenomenal. So that the environment here is just electric. And I have no doubt that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the environment up at Dodger Stadium is going to be like that. Now, Padre fans have traveled a lot. Dodger fans probably will sell some tickets to guys wearing brown and gold. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there will be some beat LA in that stadium, but it's going to be cool.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure a lot of the celebrities will be out there, the Hollywood guys. But, Padre fans often will have respect for the Dodger team, but Padre fans often hate on LA fans, and they're like, oh, these guys are a bunch of hoodlums or whatever it is. And so I just hoping that there's peace, right? Peace and prosperity in the stadium, but I'm looking for a hell of a series.
Be loud, be proud. They probably will on both sides. Okay, let's do a couple social media here before we put a lid on this one today.
I want to before we do, I want to get Roy in because he's commenting on something that you were commenting on. Dodgers will pitch Knack, Flattery, and Buehler. Dodger offense covers lack of Dodger pitching. Consider this: Dodger pitching has been in shambles all season, yet we have the best record in baseball.
Knack, rookie postseason is a totally different environment. But you're correct. Landon Knack has pitched pretty well. I think his record is 3-4. He's given some quality starts. He's had one bad start, I believe, in all. But this is coming postseason. This is such a different environment. And, I had to throw cold water on John about the playoffs. I said, yeah, you want the Padres there, but please understand this. In postseason, starting a week from Tuesday, you're not playing the White Sox, the Rockies, Pirates, or the Marlins. You're playing real batting orders with real talent. So, maybe they can trust Landon Knack. Maybe they're going to have to trust Landon Knack because he's the only one of the young arms that's still there that's healthy. Every one of those other guys is gone for a wide variety of reasons. So what a struggle.
Yeah, this is insane how the whole thing is breaking down. And now you got a guy that's named after the song My Sharona as a starting pitcher for the Dodgers. Hey, before social media, we got hot off the sports wire from Callan. He says, the AAC announced that UTSA, Memphis, USF, and Tulane will not be leaving the conference for the Pac-12.
Hear, hear. I couldn't get excited about any rivalry with Memphis or UTSA, Texas San Antonio. I've already been to the Alamo. I don't need to go to the Alamo again. Just go get Gonzaga. Just take care of business, improve the brand. Thanks for joining us, Callum. John, social media, sound off.
Sound off. Okay, here we go. Social media. Okay, we'll talk a little Raiders football. This is from Guy, and he says, we haven't had a quarterback since Rich Gannon. We should have tried to get Baker Mayfield when he was available.
Well, Baker didn't have a good rep, though. He kind of bounced around. He kind of self-destructed in Cleveland. He was with the Rams. Now he's kind of, reinstituted himself that they really kind of like him in Tampa Bay. But, geez, he got sacked 7 times on Sunday. He just got roasted. Prior to the collection you have with Minshew is you had Garoppolo, but then he got hurt. Couldn't keep him on the field, and his career is kind of unraveled because of a lot of injuries, and now he's just coming off the suspended list with San Francisco. They've gone through so many guys. I call it the Jeff George trauma. You remember Jeff George? Jeff George was going to solve all of Al Davis's problems, and he got there, and he was washed up, and he didn't play well when he was a young stud with the Indianapolis Colts. So just get me Shedeur Sanders in the Raider Nation wearing black. That would be an addition that I might even subscribe to.
It's been so long, since the Raiders had a good quarterback like Rich Gannon. That's what did they make the Super Bowl in 2002? I think it was here in San Diego. And there's always been that stat that the Raiders have had 1 million coaches in that time. And they probably had 1 million quarterbacks too.
I don't, please tell me, when was the last quarterback they developed? Not rented.
Aiden O'Connell. I don't know who is there. Maybe Derek Carr. They drafted him, didn't they?
So let him go.
But Jeff George, he always reminded me, he was like the Kelly Leak of the NFL, you know? It just kind of had the mullet going on, business in front, party in the back.
Mr. Me, Myself, and I.
Yeah, and he was a gunslinger, but yeah, he couldn't get it done. Okay, let's move on here. Talk a little Pac-12. This is with Don. He says, add UNLV, Cal, Stanford, and San Jose State, and it's pretty compelling.
San Jose State doesn't have any money, and there's not great tradition there. You know, you may argue with me, well, that's Bay Area. Well, you got Bay Area covered if you're bringing Cal and Stanford back. Vegas doesn't have any tradition. Yeah, it's a bigger TV market. But hey, when he takes wifey to Vegas to see a show and movie, they're not going to see a running Rebel game.
Hey, we went to the Mountain West basketball tournament in March.
Okay, well, you don't have a lot of friends. I understand that. But, you know, I don't think Vegas brings a hell of a lot. Where's their tradition? They don't have a tradition in football. And geez, Jerry Tarkanian running Rebels back in the day was really back in the. So I don't know that fits. And there's something, I don't know how to describe this. There's something academically deficient in the UNLV system. And the Pac-12 wants a different type of leadership with academic situations. And they think they've got that with the schools that they are bringing in. I think Vegas is an outlier out there. I just don't think that they fit. Air Force Academy and Gonzaga, I'd kind of like that. But the Mountain West the Pac-12 has said, we want 9 football playing members. We want 9, so you can have 8 conference games. So they're going to find 3 more. I don't know who the 3 are going to be.
Interesting. But, you know, now that Cal and Stanford are gone, the whole academic snottiness of the Pac-12, I think we can kind of lower the temperature on that a bit. UNLV, yeah, that run with Tarkanian, that was just such a great, fun run. But who else was there? There was Randall Cunningham, and I think there's an ESPN announcer that was a quarterback. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Trent Dilfer. Oh, no, he was at Fresno. There have been a number of quarterbacks that came out of UNLV who played in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of tradition there, and they've got Allegiant Stadium. But see, I think we have to take away all the old, you know, stereotypes of who are in these conferences. I think you just say UNLV, big market, up and coming city, a lot of things going on there. Let's get in.
It's not their citizens. They're all visitors coming with their money bags to go to the tables and go to the shows. They're not coming to see Rebel basketball.
Did you see the turnout for, what was that first game of the year? It was LSU playing. It was in Vegas. Vegas.
LSU
was against SC, wasn't it? Yeah.
But who was there? People from Baton Rouge and people from LA.
Well, that's the point. So if you have a Pac-12 team in Vegas, you don't think UCLA fans are going to go to Vegas and watch their team play?
But I don't think a ton of people are going to watch TV, and that's what the whole TV contract thing is all about.
Oh, they're going to watch TV because the dude on his couch in Pennsylvania wants to have a college football to watch at like 10 at night. You know, for an all-dayer that they're pulling, you know, drinking beer, watching college football on Saturday.
Why are you violating the rule? The rule when we did this is you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. But you never argue with a sports talk show host. Why are you violating the rule?
One man's opinion. I'm another man. All right. Okay, let's get in a couple. We have 2 more social medias. Let's try to squeeze these in. This is from Korea and Korean Bear. And he says, Lee, you can't, he's talking about the Dodgers and the pitching problems. You can't say max effort and leave it like some ambiguous term. You think any major league player will admit to not pitching with max effort? Just pace yourself. Love you, my man, but this was a bit of a hit job.
Nah, the reality is max effort is what you throw, how you throw it. And the big issue in baseball in the last 3 years is the grip of the ball that caused the wicked movement of the ball. And the grip of the ball is a different way to hold the ball now. It's not like this anymore. It's not like this anymore. It's this. And this causes unbelievable pressure down here, which is why you get the resultant torn elbow ligaments, forearm issue. This whipping action and the way you hold the ball causes. I had sports medicine doctors put a ball in my hand and say, okay, grip it this way, and you feel it. And now you're supposed to whip it like that to get to 100 miles an hour with that pressure on your elbow. That's max effort the way it's being taught right now. I mean, if you watch the TV broadcast, they shoot it from behind the mound, and you see those pitchers do that. That's the violent arm action from the grip and the way they throw the ball now. And that's why there've been 55 elbow surgeries since spring training.
Dr. Hacksaw, kinesiologist.
I did not cut class that day to go drinking uptown. I watched that.
Yeah, it's weird. But talking about max effort, you just kind of flip it around. Do you ever notice that when Manny Machado swings a bat, it's not max effort? I mean, he just gets it in that zone, he barrels it up, and uses the pitcher's max effort against him.
Yep.
It's pretty clever how some of these guys use physics to their advantage.
It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes he swings and misses a lot of stuff that goes out of the zone.
Yeah, but he gets enough over the fence to count.
One more.
Okay, well, just a quick one here. This is from a quick one from Douglas, and he says Kenny Mayne played quarterback at UNLV. That's the ESPN guy I was thinking about.
Not very well, I might mention, because I don't remember him at all.
You don't? No, yeah, he was a clever guy. I
remember Dallas Cowboys had a quarterback, Glenn Carano. He was the first really good quarterback at UNLV. Now, he preceded Randall Cunningham.
Okay, so that's like in the 60s or 70s?
70s.
Okay. All right, let's go here, talk about Coach Prime. And this is from Florida Sports World, and he says, if I was an athlete, I'd never interact nor give Peter King an interview. King is the guy who only votes for his buddies for the Hall of Fame.
I don't know that that's a fair critique. I was on a Zoom call with Peter King last week. We're both graduates of Ohio University, and they had him on, they had me on, for guys who came through the journalism or the radio TV curriculum and did something with their careers. And he was fascinating, and he talked about all the great people he interviewed. He's a great writer and creative genius and all that, but he was just offended that Coach Sanders sat there and said, I'm not answering your questions unless you refer to me as Coach Prime. And Peter said, I don't do that. I'm not going to sales pitch you about your brand. I'm here to talk CU football, players, transfer portal, recruiting, what you need to do to fix what was something great under Bill McCartney, the big dogs. I'm not referring to you as Coach Prime. End of interview. Peter said, that's fine. I'll just go interview somebody else. And he did.
Hearing this from Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, it's kind of fun how that all works out. But
I don't demand that you call me Hacksaw.
No.
I also don't think you should be calling me dumbass, but that's okay.
You're always Hacksaw. You are Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, and that's why we love you. Peter King, for me, he's been with Sports Illustrated for a while. I remember, this is kind of a bit of a tangent, but some people used to think of, remember George Will?
Sure.
Political commentator. They used to say that he was sort of like a modern day philosopher, kind of the way he carried himself. I always thought of Peter King in a similar way in the sports world, that he had a certain level of prestige and aura around him. Yeah. And he wasn't just like your regular scrub journalist. I mean, this dude was kind of up on a pedestal.
He was accomplished. I mean, when you work at that level, and you have inside access to the Belichicks and the Parcells of the world, because you're responsible of what you write, and you don't take cheap shots. You just write the story and create whatever you think the angle is. I think you earn that respect as a journalist. But he's not a pompous ass. I mean, I've interviewed him a couple of times. I interviewed George Will a couple of times.
He did?
I thought it was really unique. This when he was with the Washington Post, but he was also really a huge baseball fan. So I interviewed him at spring training. He was very close to Larry Lucchino. And I came up to him and I said, hey, I'm such and such. I do a sports talk show in San Diego. We're the Padre flagship. I'd love to sit and just talk baseball because I know you love the game. He said, no problem. Let's go sit over here in the corner of the dugout. We did 15, 20 minutes. It was really great. But there's an aura that they carry because they're very successful at what they do, because they're very well respected for what they do. It's not an aura like, I'm Howard Cosell. Do you want to talk to me? Young man?
Young man.
Young man. That's what Howard called me all the time. That's okay.
I remember seeing one time, it was George Will, and I think it was, what's her name? Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Sure.
She was a presidential historian,
yes,
knows all this stuff. And they were both talking Brooklyn Dodgers baseball. And it was really cool to hear these political nerds and political journalists to be able to speak very well about sports.
Well, they grew up as fanatical Brooklyn Dodger fans. And Doris Goodwin Kearns, does amazing stuff as it relates to, quote, political history, but she grew up in a baseball family, so she has all kinds of knowledge about the inner workings of the old Brooklyn Dodgers and the O'Malley family and what Walter did to relocate it to Chavez Ravine. And so she's got obviously opinions, but The aura of great people is because of what they've accomplished and how they treated people and how respected their work is. It's not the aura that I'm loud and you got to respect me because of who I am, aka ex-president, that kind of shtick. So I don't know what my aura is, except I'm filling time here with everybody following us on live stream.
Well, you come in the room with a fluorescent yellow shirt, so that creates the aura, the energy in the room.
I apologize for my neon shirt. That's life. Suck it up. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our Monday podcast. Back in here on Thursday. You think we're going to have a few things to talk about on Thursday? By that point, the Padres might be knocking at the door for first place in the National League West. We'll be talking a ton there. We'll set the stage for what's ahead on the NFL weekend, college football weekend too. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it, fix it. We guarantee you will enjoy it in 2024 with Dixieline Lumber. John, is it Tuesday, 7:10 p.m. yet?
Well, we got some NFL tonight, but then it's all baseball on Tuesday.
Have yourself a great evening. We'll talk to you come Thursday.
Thursday.
And we'll talk to you. Thanks forever for being part of what we do Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. on Hacksaw's Headlines.